Live from the nation's capital, yours truly, the exceptional one, in the house. Yes. Listen, we're not ashamed of the good news of conservatism, for it is the power of liberation. First to the Republican, and then the socialist. Oh, have I caused problems today? Simply because I see things a slightly different way. Before I get into the commentary of the day, and before we get a chance to interview, hopefully, the next conservative senator, for the state of Maryland, hopefully taking McCloskey, whatever her name was, the little imp that she is, taking her spot, Dave Wallace, running for U.S. Senate out of the state of Maryland. We're going to put his stuff up there in the chat roll so that people will be able to refer to it as we hold that conversation in just a few. Ladies and gentlemen, I tell you, no good deed goes unrewarded. And I, my friends, decided that I would actually speak on a matter that I saw earlier today. And it was on the Super Bowl. I want everyone to know, regarding the Super Bowl, I slept right through it. I am not going to lie to you. I slept through the Super Bowl. I took my wife to dinner. And I know this is the 50th Super Bowl. You're supposed to stay awake. You're supposed to watch this thing. This is supposed to be the greatest thing since Barnum and Bailey's Circus. And I don't know. Maybe not. I don't know. But I was told I was supposed to stay up and watch this thing. I didn't get a chance to. I took my wife to dinner. We had a very elegant meal at Fuddruckers. I recommend it highly. I had the American Kobe sandwich, which I thought was just out of this world. Wonderful, wonderful sandwich. Mary says, I hope you heard Lady Gaga. I have not heard the Lady Gaga. I heard she was absolutely brilliant because she didn't do anything special to it. She just sang the national anthem. And she has a very beautiful voice. And I heard she did extremely well. So I come home. I tell my wife I'm going to clean out the fireplace. I'll get a fire started. And then we're going to sit down and we're going to watch the football game. I didn't even... You can forget it. I put my soda down, ready to go downstairs to the fireplace, and the next thing you know, bam, I'm gone. I was absolutely knocked out. I slept until probably about 11 o'clock, 11:30 in the night. I missed it completely. But when I woke up, and you all might want to take a listen to Friday's Conservative Commandos radio show. And you can do that if you go directly to High Plains Talk Radio. If you go directly to their spot, you can listen to last Friday's show. I think I prognosticated the show, the football game. I said it was going to be a very tough defensive battle. And I didn't think, I don't know if I thought that I don't know. I don't think I really called the team or whatever, but I just wanted to see a very good defensive game. And I heard last night was a very, very good defensive game. What up, Dave? Glad to have you here. But when I saw the score, I was uniquely thrown asunder. I didn't know that they lost that badly. Carolina to the Denver Broncos. But I made a comment regarding the reaction after the football game by Cam Newton at his press conference. And so, in the second half of our show, I think I'll go into greater detail regarding that. But let me just tell you exactly what my thought was. And then you're going to see how I was just inundated with Black Lives Matter folk telling me that I should have my black card revoked. In fact, can I play that for you? Well, I tell you what, before I play that for you, you know how we start every show. Okay? You know how we do it. And we do it for the children. It's the Pledge of Allegiance. And the reason why we do it is because many American does not remember the Pledge of Allegiance. Today we're going to be led by Riley Curry, the beautiful daughter of Stephen Curry of the Golden State Warriors. Take it away, Riley.
Hey folks, Byron Tyler here.
No, not you, Byron. Not you. Okay. I want to hear my little girl. Okay, that's what I want to hear. While we're getting that pointed up, and I'm getting this thing queued up here, I want to play for you also tonight. Before we even, I know I'm going to be listened to by a lot of people today because they're complaining about my opinion.
Hey guys, welcome to the Combo. I'm Crystal Marine. While Stephen Curry continues to dominate every night on the court, his 3-year-old daughter, Riley Curry, is learning how to be a true American. Steph's wife, Aisha, posted the following video of her daughter adorably reciting the Pledge of Allegiance, which will make you want to drape an American flag around your shoulder. The only thing missing is America the Beautiful playing in the background. Take a look.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Riley Curry continues to show us how bold she is. The Warriors may have...
There you go. Thank you, Riley. That's exactly how we want our children to do it. Thank you so much for tuning in tonight. We are not ashamed of the good news of conservatism, for it is the power of liberation. First to the Republicans and then the Democrats. Yours truly here, the exceptional one, Ken McClinton. I want to play this clip real quick. This is what made Cam Newton get up. I just want to play it for you. This is what made him get up.
Load the box, force y'all to throw the ball. You throw the football. That was the game plan. Load the box, one-on-one man outside. They got a couple of big plays, but I feel like...
There you go. Ladies and gentlemen, he got up from his press conference because he was irritated by the cornerback, Denver cornerback Chris Harris. He was irritated because Chris was yelling in his ear, "Throw the ball! Can you throw the ball?" Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to talk about character. We're going to talk about color. Second half of this program, we're going to talk about breaking down the barriers of through intergenerational poverty. But I'm going to tell you, when we come back in that second half, I'm going to play a clip by Willie Mays. I assure you, Willie Mays heard a whole lot worse than that and showed up every day to play. That's all I'm going to say. And I'm not saying that, you know, win or lose. But we're going to talk about that in the second half. Before we reach that second half, however, we will be talking in this first half with Dave Wallace. Dave Wallace is a hopeful for the U.S. Senate. When we come back from our break, none other than our good friend, Dave Wallace. You're listening to the Exceptional Conservative Show on High Plains Talk Radio. Also, you're listening on SHR Media. And what's the other one? High Plains Talk, SHR Media. It's a third one. Yeah, and maybe they won't carry me now because I forgot. Oh my God, that's a sign of age. I'm telling you, it really is. It's kicking in real. Rebooting Liberty. High Plains Talk, SHR Media. I apologize, Rebooting Liberty. That's age. That's nothing more than that. We'll be right back with more of the best right after this. I'm telling you, this is just not a good night for ads. It's just,
Hi, my name is Christopher Arnold. I'm the executive chef of Infused Restaurant, and today I'm going to walk you through some of the meals that we prepare here. We're making a pizza. We use French Italian sausage that they cook here and slice it up. Our pizza dough is in-house made. Our pizza sauce is in-house made. So everything is fresh and ingredients. This is our Thai curry chicken. The sauce is made with coconut milk and the Thai red curry. It is juicy chicken thighs as well as some mixed vegetables, served with jasmine rice and pita bread. So now we're going to prepare our famous blackened tilapia and grits, our fish and grits on the menu. The fish is ready and our meal will be complete. Let me tell you about our infused heat burgers. When we kick the spice up just a little bit with our infused sauce. We start off with 80-20 USDA ground chuck ham patty burgers, like half a pound of burgers, and we're going to grill it to perfection. After I flip the burger, we add the sauce and let it cook on into the meat a little bit. We're going to add a little bit of pepper jack cheese to this burger, spice it up a bit.
ladies and gentlemen, if you have not gone, we went this weekend, sat down with the owner, the wonderful Derek Williams. I love seeing Chef Arnold as well. Listen, Infused Restaurant, 6339 Allentown Road, Temple Hills, Maryland, 20748, 301-449-9000. That's 301-449-9000. Infused.com. Whenever you're in Washington, you should be there. Ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, we're going to present. No, we're not going to present. There we go. Apparently having a problem with that one. Okay, let us try another one. Having a few technical difficulties, but nonetheless, we will get our show going. It just works that way. Okay. Okay. Bam. There we go. Okay. All right. So what we're going to do is we're going to call Dave Wallace, who had a wonderful time talking with over the weekend, and he and his wife will be going to a very big event that we're hosting in Washington, D.C. At least Raynard Jackson is. 4th Annual Trailblazers Award at the Willard. We'll talk about that in the second half as well. Here we go. One ringy dingy.
Hello.
Good evening, Mr. Wallace. This is Ken McClinton, and you are live on the Exceptional Conservative Show in Washington, D.C.
Oh, that's great. Thank you for having me on the show tonight.
It's great having you here, sir, and it was wonderful meeting all of the great people working in your campaign.
Well, thank you. We appreciate your having had a chance to meet some of the people on our campaign, and we had a great event this evening. Assuming this is live, as you said, we had quite a filled room, and it was really good. We had about 15 minutes of presentation and then Q&A that lasted for about a half an hour. And it was a great town hall that we held.
Awesome. And
we plan on doing these things more and more often and having an opportunity for the people to speak to us so they can learn my positions on the issues and know that we're going to stand up and champion the hardworking people of Maryland so that they can keep their hard-earned money and make sure that they have somebody championing their positions and their needs in the Senate.
Dave, you are a great businessman and also have a wealth of experience in terms of activism outside of government. Why do you want to go inside the beast?
Well, that's a good question. Every single time I go through a course of the day, I'm running into people that the system has just given up on.
Yeah.
And it crushes me when I see this. And I know there are better solutions than those solutions that have been driven down people's throats and solutions that are going to give people that true opportunity to build a better life, to allow people that which is their God-given right, to aspire, to have dreams, to attain those dreams, and make their dreams a reality and take them as far as they can possibly go. And we know there's not one welfare program that works better than a job.
There you go.
A job will do it, where no program that government creates can.
Well, in the state of Maryland, we're hearing that the President of the United States has brought the unemployment rate, across the nation to 4.9%. Governor Hogan has done a wonderful job in terms of creating new jobs, jobs that were once escaping to Ohio. Gotta ask you, there doesn't seem to be a job problem in Maryland, is there?
They changed the whole system around, so what is up is down, and what's down is up. and here's the problem with these numbers. They do not take into account the people that have leapfrogged from long-term unemployment to not even being counted in the system. And the workforce participation rate has fallen to its lowest level since 1978.
Wow.
And what is happening is people who are on short-term listed as short-term unemployed have become long-term unemployed. The long-term unemployed have moved back to where they're not counted. And each one of these times that we go through this cycle, more and more people who were long-term unemployed are falling off the count. And here's the other problem. Today, we don't have good construction jobs. We don't have the good
introducing Pizza Hut
blue-collar industrial jobs and heavy manufacturing jobs.
Yes.
We have a retail economy. We have a Walmart economy. We have a McDonald's economy.
Yeah.
It used to be when you looked at the Dow Jones Industrial Average, you had all of these really heavy-duty, heavy industry, heavy manufacturers and industrial giants. Today, we have these industries that were never considered industrial before, but they've just been thrown into that because they have such a large place in our economy. Today, for every single person who is working in manufacturing, there are 1.8 people in government. That is a huge load to bear.
Yes.
For those people that are working in manufacturing. And then, of course, the retail jobs are shifting and supplying on a shelf. And that takes one person. However, for a shop to go and make that shirt, to make that radio, to make that computer, takes a lot more people just for one. And even when it's automated, that's fantastic. We want as many automated jobs as possible because what that does is expands the economy.
Yeah.
It makes more people to be able to afford those products that otherwise would be out of their reach. And if the truth be known, had we become that particular country where the more automated a job became, the fewer jobs we would have, that would have meant that Ford would have put all these other people out of business and we wouldn't have grown jobs. But as we grow the base, those people that can afford an automobile grew exponentially. And can you imagine when we can bring the cost of an automobile back down? So some of the most poor nations can buy a tractor to plow their fields, to till their fields, to plant their fields, to cultivate and grow the crops that they need. And then all of a sudden you have industrial growth in these third world underdeveloped countries to become more developed and more developed. And so they can have roads and bridges so that in turn it doesn't take 3 days to go 300 miles, but they can do it in a reasonable amount of time, 6 hours, 7 hours, and the economies grow for those reasons. You need infrastructure, you need jobs, but you also need businesses as well as the individual employee to be able to keep as much money as they possibly can. That means you have to keep the size of government down. And that statistic I just told you, one manufacturing job for every 1.8 government jobs. It used to be 1 to 1. Now it's completely flipped. When this country was wealthy, when we didn't have the out of control spending, we had jobs that didn't depend on the public sector, that didn't depend on McDonald's, didn't depend on Walmart, and we were in an industrial juggernaut. Today, we cannot produce enough steel without importing it for the critical needs of infrastructure that allow us as Americans to stay safe and secure. And that's another issue as well.
Yeah.
Now, you had some other questions for me, and I don't want to beat this.
No, I think our chat room is very excited about the fact you're talking about U.S. steel and the economy, because many of us remember when Made in the USA meant something. But you speak of the economy, there are reasons why the steel industry left for Mexico and for the Philippines and for China. There are reasons why groups left for Canada in order to make it and be more profitable and more productive. And it's not because they were opening up chains all around the world. It was simply that the cost of doing business is lower in those countries. One of the major reasons is regulations. Too much regulation. Your thoughts, sir?
Absolutely. You're absolutely correct. The regulations are driving business out. And yet, here's something that's phenomenal. A most recent understanding of our reserves, our energy reserves, oil and natural gas, they are equal to $50 trillion of proven reserves, where just a few years ago we were told we had to suffer under what people called peak oil because we would never produce anymore.
Yeah.
And yet we've had at least a 50% increase in our own energy production. We now have lifted the ban on oil exports. The cost of gasoline, when somebody sees $1.61 a gallon, for instance, in Maryland, and it varies from 40 to over 50 cents.
Yeah.
If you take that average in Maryland, it's about 51 cents, including federal and state tax, excise taxes on those fuels that people never see. When you see $1.67, realize that means it's $1.17 or $1.16 a gallon. And in inflated dollars, that means you are paying what people paid before the oil embargo against the United States, relative to equal value dollar, current value. And that's an amazing thing. And government. I want your listeners to know this. It's not because of the federal government. It's strictly because of the ingenuity of private enterprise. And when people think of energy, they can think of ExxonMobil, they think of Chevron, they think of all these big mega corporations. But in actuality, those people who have created this energy boom, on average, they have less than 16 employees. These are the wildcat drillers.
Yeah.
That, with their own ingenuity, they have created new methodologies that have been proven safe and effective by none other than the EPA. This is that element. The energy production in this country will give us a comparative advantage for the energy costs that go into the production of materials. So U.S. employees, U.S. manufacturers, and industry can produce goods competitively with anybody in the world if we have a tax structure and a regulatory structure that allows these businesses to retain their earnings so that in turn they can develop more and more productivity. And people say that they're greedy. Well, you can only spend so much as an individual or groups of individuals. But you know what? If somebody's greedy, that means they envy something that they didn't earn.
Yeah.
But in this country, when somebody has earned their own money, that's not greed. That is in their interest to be able to do the best they can for their families. And right now, we're under the duress of knowing that the Obama administration, the president, has now floated this idea and wants to propose an idea that now that we have energy down to where people aren't suffering under the burden of high cost of energy, that he wants to impose a $10 per barrel tax. That is on your back.
Exactly.
Every single person listening to us today, that is on your back. That is a burden that your family is going to have to bear because the federal government does not know how to control its spending. It doesn't know how to create jobs. It cannot make profits. The only place where jobs can be created that are productive, that grow our economy, and that is in the private sector. And I want everybody to know, when you've been told, and this is Economics 101, when you've been told that a profit margin of a company is bad because it inflates the cost of goods, that particular company does not want to spend any more money in the cost of an efficient product that it provides, so that in turn it can provide it at the least cost, so it can provide it to you as the consumer with the highest quality based on their quality standards, as well as the least expensive, because they have to compete. They have to compete with every other business doing that. When the government takes control of any business model, there is no accountability, there's no competition, and that means regardless of how inefficient and ineffective if the model is, they will get their price because they demand it of you. When you go into the private sector and you purchase goods, those goods that you pay for, you can easily turn around and walk away.
Exactly.
Every single business knows they have to compete for your business. They have to give you quality that is consistent. As a small businessman, I'm no better than I am today. No matter what I did yesterday, I still have to perform today. I can't rest on my laurels.
Exactly.
No individual business can. But the government can hold you under their thumb, and they make you take whatever they provide.
Dave Wallace is running for U.S. Senate in the great state, well, actually the communist state of Maryland, the place where they tax rain. And when we come back after this quick break, I want to talk with you about your interests in campaigning, and as well some national issues that need to be addressed and have been looked at the presidential level. When we come back, Dave Wallace, who will be talking with us about the economy and about national politics. We'll be right back.
Hi, my name is Christopher Arnold. I'm the executive chef of Infused Restaurant, and today I'm going to walk you through some of the meals that we prepare here.
Thank you. You were still live.
Okay. It's great. I'm glad we have a lot of people on the phone with us now. I keep hearing the clicking going on.
Exactly.
French, Italian, sauce.
You got a lot of questions coming to you.
In-house made. The sauce is in-house made. So everything is fresh and green.
I appreciate all the time and patience you put with it.
Well, thank you, sir. Listen, I'm telling you, this you lit up the screen regarding your economic opinions. People love it. We're going to come back a little bit later. We're going to talk about Islam. Yep.
And when we get back, I want to remind you of something that we all know.
We're going to prepare our famous blackened tilapia and grits. Our fish and grits on the menu.
Cool.
The fish is ready, and our meal will be complete. Let me tell you about our infused beef burger. We keep the spice up just a little bit with our infused sauce. We start off with 80-20 USDA ground chuck ham patty burgers, nice half a pound of burger, and we're going to grill it to perfection. After I flip the burger, we add the sauce and let it cook on into the meat just a little bit. We're going to add a little bit of pepper jack cheese to this burger, spice it up a bit.
Ladies and gentlemen, you know what to do. You still have time. You can call in your order, or you could just visit. My wife and I this weekend visited Infused Restaurant, 6339 Allentown Road, Temple Hills, Maryland, 20748 301-449-9000. If you're going to hold your fundraisers, if you're going to have catered events, if you're going to have the greatest party that you ever wanted to host, have it at Infused Restaurant, infusedinfused.com. We'll be right back right after we hear from the unpleasant blind guy. Take it away.
Time for an unpleasant blind guy, Valentine's Bite. Depending on when you're hearing this, Valentine's Day is still going on, or it's all over and you've survived it. Thinking about this pseudo-holiday, I decided to give listeners a few tips on surviving the next one. If you're not in a relationship, don't let every media outlet convince you you're a loser. Enjoy the extra cash. If you're in a relationship, then I have something for everyone. Now, ladies, I love you as often as possible, but your man works hard. If he gets you a nice Valentine's present, reciprocate. For instance, if you're lucky enough for him to have gotten you some kind of a diamond bracelet or ring or something, get him a nice big screen TV, or at the very least a grill. And I don't mean a cheap little Weber thing from Walmart. I mean a nice one. Remember, in the Obama economy, he had to work hard to get you that diamond. And if he didn't have a job like a lot of people, he had to sell a lot of weed, and let's face it, dodging the cops ain't easy. And if you're a man, Valentine's Day is a racket. You know it, I know it. Thing is, though, you got to play the game if you're in a relationship. You could be blessed with the most practical, level-headed woman that God can have given you. And while she may not care that much about Valentine's Day, she does have friends and coworkers who will be comparing what they got. So do what you can reasonably afford to do. Remember, you're lucky to have that lady in your life, and treat her well on Valentine's Day. Or if you want to be a rebel, I'll tell you something to do that the ladies love. Pick a day and get her something nice, or do something nice for her. Not her birthday, not an anniversary, not a day close after you've done something to make her angry at you. Just a random day with absolutely no significance. And get her a nice present or do something nice for her on that day. She'll love it, and along with everything else she gives you, she'll give you the one thing that all men want. Power tools.
Oh, we love Dr. Love.
An unpleasant blind guy. Valentine's bite.
Ladies and gentlemen, I want to welcome you back to the second quarter of the Exceptional Conservative Show for this Monday night. We're coming to you live from the nation's capital. We are not ashamed of the good news of conservatism, for it is the power of liberation. First to the Republican and then the Democrat. Ladies and gentlemen, we have the great privilege of talking tonight to Dave Wallace. Dave Wallace, who is a strong contender for the U.S. Senate out of the great state of Maryland. Dave, we thank you so much for being on the air with us tonight and holding through to those commercials. Listen, you are running for a very significant office in the United States, and that's the U.S. Senate. An office that really hasn't had much joy in the past 8 to maybe 12 years. People are concerned that the U.S. Senate is aloof and doesn't really concern itself with the problems of the common man. Do you share those convictions or those thoughts? And what would you do, or how could you improve the reaction to the common man through the U.S. Senate?
Well, the common man has to walk down the street every day. He has to know that himself and his wife and his children are safe, going back and forth to school, back and forth to and from work. Right now, we have a problem with criminal, illegal aliens coming into our communities and ravaging those same communities where they embed. We today have a situation where it's acknowledged by the experts that with 100% of the refugees, 15% of those refugees are ISIS members, and they're secreting into this country. We just had the Paris attack. We just had the attack in San Bernardino. We had the attacks in Chattanooga. It only takes one radical Islamic terrorist to ruin a person's day.
Yeah.
And that person could be you, it could be your wife, it could be your children, it could be your husband, it could be your brother, aunt, uncle, mother, father. And that is not acceptable. And that distinguishes my opinion and the voting that I would do in the Senate compared to either one of the candidates who are there now. We already have too high a crime rate in Maryland. We have that dubious distinction to now have the 16th most dangerous city in the world in Baltimore.
Yeah.
We have to address these problems. We have to be serious about them. We have to make sure that when children get ready for school, they go to school and they're safe, and they come home when they're safe. We have to make sure that the drug dealers are told under no uncertain terms that they will go to jail, they will serve their sentence, they will serve it completely. But at the same time, we cannot make cities good and safe and prosperous if we don't allow businesses to do what they do best and have the only kind of business in our cities thrive that are strictly underground. They're black market economy, and that means they're illicit, and that means it's typically drugs and other types of illegal activities, because they're the only ones not being taxed.
Exactly.
They're the only ones not being driven out of the cities because they're not subject to the laws of the land. But what we have to do is do one thing and do it well, and that is reduce the marginal tax rates for all business. We have to reduce the tax rate on individuals. We have to make it so that people who want to be married do not have a marriage penalty, and that we have to have family formation where fathers can live in the home, where they are an instrumental factor in their wives and their children's lives. Because the best antidote for the elimination of poverty is a two-person mother and father household.
Exactly.
We have to get back to that.
You know, as I'm listening to you, and there are a great many compliments coming out of the chat room. Dave Milner says, sounds good. He does seem to be aware of current situations. And Mary Brockman is in here. She's saying some great things about you. Got to ask you.
Well, by the way,
yes.
To both Mary and what's the other gentleman's name?
Dave Milner.
Dave Milner, I want to thank you very much. Mary, thank you. And, you know, although you're only texting in and I'm the one speaking, I hear you loud and clear. And when you give me an opportunity to represent you in the Senate, you will be my judge and jury. And I want to tell everybody here, I've already got a job. I don't need a job. I don't need a career. I've got a career. I run a successful business. Not the biggest business, but a successful business.
Yeah.
And I promise you that I will run for office. And if elected, and I'm so honored, I will only run for 1 second term. There would be 2 terms total. And I want to walk away from that job with my head held up, knowing that I did the best possible job for you, Mary, and Mr. Milner. I want to tell you thank you very much. And that encouragement inspires me to work harder to win this seat, not for me, not for Kenneth, but for all Marylanders, including you. And I'm speaking directly to you two right now, and anybody else who understands that we're in a fight to save this country. But while we're saving it, we don't want to just save it and get it teeter-tottering. We want to make it great again. And I know people might have heard that, but what we have to do is restore America's greatness. And that means you getting to keep the hard-earned money that you earn, and that means that you have upwardly mobile opportunities in the job sector, and that your employment benefits mankind.
You know,
that's really what you want. It's a career that you're going to feel in your heart, and you do a good job at the end of the day. If you go home, you can smile at your kids, and you say, kids, I earned a living for you, and I did it because I love you.
Dave,
That's what it's all about.
There's some people who say that when politicians make promises like that, the assertion is that it's government that's actually creating industries, it's government that's creating jobs, it's government that's creating profitability in this nation. Is that what you're prescribing, sir, or are you prescribing something else?
You know, as a matter of fact, there's nothing about a public-private partnership that's going to make this country great. It's about you starting your own small business, getting up every day and going to your job, whether it's a job or a small business or a big business. It's business. It's enterprise. It's people that get up and they have that dream. And I think this is just, it has to be reinforced that this country was built based on hard work of the individuals who built companies. Think about Hershey. Everybody thinks about Hershey. It's this big corporation, someplace called Hershey, Pennsylvania.
There you go.
Well, everybody that I speak to, and I'm speaking to now, I want you to consider one thing. Do you realize that Mr. Hershey started his business on 2 prior occasions, and he fell flat on his face? And I want you to remember something. Think about Hershey today. Think about that big corporation. that now is successful. Nobody thinks about the failures because you know what? They were only stepping stones to Mr. Hershey's success. And every single time you fall down, you only lose, you only fail if you don't get back up.
Yep.
And that means you dust yourself off, you get back up, and you learn from your mistakes and you move forward. As a small businessman, there have been times when I had to adjust course because I bit off more than I could chew, or I had a customer who failed to pay me, and I had to go and bite the bullet, and I had to make tough decisions on what was spent and where it was spent. And somehow or other, we got through it. It wasn't always simple. It wasn't always easy. It took sacrifice. But I know if I can do it, you can do it.
Amen on that. Dave, questions flowing in out of the chat room. Let me try to catch up with them.
Okay, let's
go. Here we go. Dave Milner's asking, what is your opinion on guns, especially after the federal court made its decision this week in Maryland regarding the constitutionality of the gun control laws?
Well, I've never had a change in my position. My position is that you have a right to self-defense. You have a right that is your right. The government has the responsibility to protect that right. That means if you are confronted with a danger, you must take all action necessary to save your life, your family's life, and that doesn't mean just in your home. The right to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. And every single time when it's been determined in court, is there any other alternative meaning to that simple language that's in the Constitution under the Second Amendment? It's always found that no matter how much people throw to deceive and twist the language that is simple in the Constitution, it's always determined that you personally have that right. What we have to do is we have to go after those people who are criminals using guns, getting them through illicit means so they can attack innocent, law-abiding citizens. You can't go and disarm a criminal, but you surely can go and disarm the law-abiding, because the criminal's always going to find black market means to get a gun. They're going to get it in the underground. And yet when you're disarmed, you will be the only one there to be the prey of those who want to hurt you.
Very true. Dave.
And whether it's a big magazine or a small magazine, you have the right to do that. Because in the day's world, those drug dealers and those kingpins, they got the arms. In fact, in many cases, they're better armed in many cases than law enforcement. And you must be able to protect yourself and your family.
Dave, next question out of here is your opinion regarding Islam, and specifically Sharia law and its continuity with the U.S. Constitution.
It isn't. It is not in continuity with the United States Constitution. Every single element, as is practiced in the Islamic countries that we all even trade with, I believe women have equal rights under the law with every single man. That a woman should be able to speak up if she's abused, and it would not be necessary and should never be necessary for a woman to argue that she's been raped and then require that 4 other men be responsible to say, yes, she was raped. And yet we have many occasions where women are subjugated, and in fact, in certain Islamic states, women cannot drive. Can you imagine?
Wow.
Can you imagine if you're not escorted, you will be beaten by the men in your community?
Wow.
Can you imagine that?
I can't
You
imagine.
didn't happen to be with your husband or a family member. My daughter goes to work every day on her own. She has to have the same exact rights as any man.
Yes.
And she doesn't have to wear a shawl, a veil, or any other element my daughters specifically, or your children. And it is not compatible with the United States Constitution and the rights we have. And you have free will. And Sharia takes your free will away. It's as simple as that. And it's already been determined in a Maryland court that Sharia law is not compatible in Maryland, either with our U.S. Constitution or with our Maryland Constitution. So it's already been disposed of.
Now, I want to ask you another quick question. These things are flying in here. Madeleine Albright, over the weekend, made it, because we're talking about women, that there is a special place in hell for women that don't support women. Do you believe that electoral politics should be broken down to race and color and gender?
I think that's been the biggest problem we've had, where those people who want to pit one group against another. God made us all in the image, and we've all been made in the image of God. We're all children of God. We all are to be respected and nurtured and loved. And when one man puts envy out there, where you have to envy your neighbor, that in itself is a sin. What we have to do is look at our neighbor and say, what was it that they did that was so perfect that got them there? Mm-hmm. And we can always look at the one person who did it illicitly, illegally. But by and large, people are honest. When they make a good living, it's because they worked hard. It's because they took something and they focused on it. And they focused on that one thing and continued to do it better and better and better.
Terrific.
So what we need to do is talk about what it was that Steve Jobs did that was so good that he made Apple Computer from his garage. And when we have that which completely revolutionizes society, that person should be able to reap the benefits of their benefit to society. And we should never envy that person for being successful, because their success breeds your success. Mm-hmm. Their success creates thousands and thousands and thousands of jobs, and they share that wealth. That wealth is distributed throughout. And some of the wealthiest people are the people who went to work for Apple. And that's only one example. Mm-hmm. There are countless others. Every single franchise of McDonald's, every single franchise of whatever business it is. Or if you go out and you till the field fresh on your own because you've got a good idea and you want to apply yourself to it. And it all comes down to one thing.
Yes.
Kenneth, I learned a long time ago. And all of my listeners, all of your listeners, I want you to realize what you contribute to society will always come back to you and help you prosper when you make people have better, safer existences in this right here on the face of the earth. And when we have the opportunity as individual businesses to supply societal needs, all you got to do is think of a grocery store and you compare it to a food pantry in the Soviet Union or a food pantry right today in Venezuela. You go into Venezuela, you go into the Soviet Union years ago when they were still whole, and you couldn't find a loaf of bread.
Mm-hmm. That's true.
A plain white loaf of bread. Unless you got there early, unless you stood in line overnight. But when you go into a U.S. grocery store, Maryland grocery store, not only do you have bread, you got to figure out which one of the loaves you want. You want rye, you want wheat, you want whole wheat, you want butter top, you want Italian, you want thick, crusty Italian, or do you want plain old sandwich bread?
Mm-hmm.
It gets confusing when you go into a U.S. grocery store. It's confusing anytime you go into a free market facility of any type. I've been selling kitchens all my life, Kenneth.
Yep.
When you walk into a kitchen studio, the first thing you do is you get inundated with all the choices.
Exactly.
You know, I remember we imported a car from behind the Iron Curtain right before it fell. And it was called a Yugo. It was one style, one color, maybe two, and it could never stay on the road. Can you imagine a U.S. manufacturer gets an independent business where they would gain market share and be the dominant single automobile for a particular country if they can't make an automobile that stays on the road? That's
Exactly.
why Toyota outstripped, for the longest time, General Motors, because they made a better automobile. And you had a choice. And you went with the choice that was serving you best. Whether it was fuel economy, whether it was price, whether it was quality, whether it was longevity, whatever you wanted, you could get it. Red, blue, green. Leather interior, cloth interior. Big engine, small engine. High performance or economy that would get the best fuel economy. And you know what? That's what makes the world go round. Because no two people are alike.
Exactly.
In a free market, you can have that. You can't get that from a federal government agency. When you go to a federal government agency and you've got health care of your own, but instead you go into a VA, they put you in a long line. And the fact that you're in a long line, eventually, that line thins out, strictly because the sick don't get better. They get worse until they can't even show up in line.
Exactly. Dave, you have sincerely hit on some very key points this particular evening, especially in this last bit, and we need to have you come back on in the coming weeks to talk.
People can follow me at davewallace.us. That's my candidacy website. I am running for U.S. Senate here in Maryland. I need your support. If you believe in what I've been talking about tonight, and Kenneth, your listeners, they can come and they can see us. I'm going to be in that primary. I'm going to be in that primary, and I'm going to be fighting for you. Fighting for you and every single one of your listeners, because nobody needs to have what's been happening, where there are jobs that are inferior, where part-time jobs have substituted for full-time jobs, where pay has been degraded. Still today, the average income of an American worker is less than what we had at the end of this most recent recession.
Wow.
At the end of the recession, wages are now lower than they were when we got out of the recession.
And based on
that
this,
is the only time in the history of this country that we've actually receded as we're going forward. And you know what it is? It has to do with the growth in the economy. And right now, don't let anybody tell you any differently. A 2% growth rate is insufficient to grow wealth, to grow the number of jobs, and the quality of jobs. You've got to have a 3% growth rate. And for your listeners, the difference between 2 and 3 is 50%. It's not just 1 point. It's a 50% increase. And I know you got to go, but realize one thing. That 50% difference over 50 years is equal to an additional growth in the economy of $521 trillion based on today's economy.
Wow.
Over the course of that growth. And don't tell me that that's not going to create prosperity. Don't tell me that that's not going to create more jobs. And that's because those who earn it get to keep more of it, and it takes money to put a desk in, a computer in, or a machine in, so there's somebody sitting behind that desk or behind that machine to make more prosperity, more growth, and it's a simple thing.
There we go. Dave Wallace.
The production manpower economy will win this country to great success and to renew our entrepreneurial spirit.
We love what you're talking about, Dave. Dave Wallace. DaveWallace.us. Go there. Get the announcement. Become a voting campaign assistant with him. Join in the fight to restore America to its greatness. God bless you, sir. Thank you so much, and we look forward to having you back.
Thank you so much for having me on. I love it. Anytime you want me to come back on, I'll be happy to talk to your listeners and speak to them and bring me as many questions as they have. I'd love to be able to answer more of them.
Will do.
Thank you very much.
God bless. Ladies and gentlemen, Dave Wallace, running for the U.S. Senate out of the wonderful state of Maryland. When we come back in the second half, you will be listening to The Exceptional One, And yeah, I'm taking off the gloves today, and I'm going to get real with you. We need to be able to talk about intergenerational poverty in a manner, in a way that Republican or conservative values not only meet the need, but exceed it abundantly. We serve a multiplying God. Get ready. You're about to hear a great message. We'll be right back with more of the best in urban conservative talk right after these messages. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to welcome you back to the second half of the Exceptional Conservative Show, live from the nation's capital. We are not ashamed of the good news of conservatism, for it is the power of liberation, first to the Republican, and then the socialist. Yours truly, the exceptional one, Cameron Clinton, in the chat roll tonight, the beautiful, the brilliant Mary Brockman, my bouncer, whom I love so much. If you diss her, you diss me, you will be dismissed from our particular program. And also, the great, wise wonder of communications, Dave Milner, who is better known as the Unpleasant Blind Guy. Did that bite earlier on Valentine's Day. I think we'll play it for the rest of the week. Ladies and gentlemen, don't diss each other. Love each other this week. If only for this week. Love each other. You know what we do when we start off our halves? We go to the Pledge of Allegiance of the United States of America. We want you to be a mad part of patriotism in support of this particular nation. Why not join us right now as we begin the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
There we go. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much. That was John Wayne. Pledge of Allegiance. Mrs. Biggs is watching via live stream and Ustream. I love her so much. She's getting some rest right now. Easing into. She said it was a very nice interview with Dave Wallace. So I'm impressed. I believe that is our first interview of 2016. The very first interview of 2016. And why not? Such a wonderful person. Next Monday night, Louis Bueller will be joining us at the 9-10 hour. And we'll be talking about politics, Republican style. Love is the answer, Ken. Love is of God. Yes, thank you, Dave. Thank you. You can whisper that into a woman's ear. Love is the answer, baby. Oh, he's so cute and so sensitive and so sentimental. He's so deep. Yeah, deep, baby. Very deep. Full of it. Ladies and gentlemen, let me go ahead and first and foremost, my good friend Lonnie Poindexter, who normally comes on at 1 o'clock. I'm sorry, well, he's on from 11 to 1 o'clock on his Lion Chaser program. Normally comes on at 10 o'clock in the evening on our program on Monday nights. He unfortunately, well, fortunately for him, unfortunately for me, he, my friend, is traveling to Israel. And they're in Israel for a little bit. They'll be back later on this week. They've been away for about a week or so. So I know that he had a wonderful time. I wish I could have gone. Definitely the one country I do want to travel to before I close my eyes and return to the Father. Don't out my technique, bro. Okay, I won't do that, sir. I won't do that. Hey, baby. Love is the answer. First and foremost, let me go over something here, and I want to play for you one more time the clip that made Cam Newton get up. And in fact, what I'll do is I'll read to you the Charlotte Stories, in fact, and I'll put that in the chat roll. Ooh, pardon me. For everybody. And you can follow us at theexceptionalconservativeshow.com in the chat room. Okay. Charlotte Stories released the real reason that Cam Newton got out of his seat and left the interview. Already disappointed by the fact that his team lost 24-10. That he did not throw a touchdown pass nor ran for one. Was involved in a dramatic fumble. And quite frankly, you should blame the offensive line. I don't know. If you don't have to be a genius. You could have watched the Atlanta game and saw exactly what Atlanta did to upset South Carolina. I think that's what the Denver Broncos did. It was a very good defensive game. From what I've seen in terms of the highlights. But Cam Newton was hurt. And let me just say that, you know, he's gotten into a lot of controversy regarding his jovial manner of playing football. And I love watching him play football. He is a great phenom. He is the perfect size and shape of a football player. He has great speed. He's a great gift. But, you know, sometimes we allow our affections to get in the way of our sensibilities. And so they're reporting out of Charlotte Stories, for the first time in known NFL history, a post-game press conference was held where the quarterback of the losing team was being interviewed right next to the key defensive player of the opposing team. The reason Cam, and I don't think he was the kid. Von Miller won the MVP. This guy's not even a starter. But anyway, the reason Cam may have had his hood up on his now famous Panther sweatshirt may have been to try to block out the insults. Here's what Cam was hearing right before he left the interview. Let me play that for you one more time, people.
Game plan, load the box, force y'all to throw the ball. See, you throw the football. That was the game plan. Load the box, one-on-one man outside. They got a couple of big plays, but I feel like
he heard that. What he heard was Denver cornerback Chris Harris. Now, Chris Harris is not a starting cornerback. He's a great player, but he's not a starter. But I don't know if that makes you a great player. I don't know. But let's just say he's a very good player. And he was very vocal about Cam Newton. He's been very vocal about Cam Newton in the past. Downright disrespectful to the legion of fans. And he's talking bad about Cam's performance right in Cam's ear. Now, the way this story is written, it's like you can't say anything to Cam the way you can't say anything to Obama. Instead of hearing the interviewers, Cam was hearing Chris yell, "Throw the ball. Can you throw the ball?" It seems clear that Cam didn't leave because of the media. He left because he wanted to be the bigger man as the opposition continued to insult his... That's not being the bigger man. Now, I want to play a clip for you of someone who had to go through something to achieve something. And then I'm going to read to you exactly what I wrote and have started a chain of violent responses back towards me regarding the Cam Newton thing. And let me just say, first and foremost, as far as I know, there is no paycheck coming in for me or even anyone else who critiques Cam Newton. Carolina's not paying me. The NFL's not paying me. The Denver Broncos isn't paying me. I'm not getting a dime out of these groups. So I really don't care overall. But I do have a show, and I'm going to give you my opinion. You can agree. You can also disagree. But the vile nature in which people are being disagreeable counts to the fact that they saw this game as a racial provocation rather than an all-American football game. I'll leave it at that. I want you all to listen to Willie Mays. Willie Mays is, if not the, one of the greatest baseball players of all times. While traveling through Hagerstown, Maryland, he experienced the serene throes of racial divide. He experienced real racism. He experienced what Democrats created in Jim Crow. He's in Hagerstown, Maryland. Let me let you pick it up from here.
Because I couldn't stay with the ball club. And when they dropped me off in Hagerstown, this was a unique thing that I had happen to me in my first time. They dropped me off downtown in the black area. About 2 o'clock in the morning, 3 players came through the window and they slept on the floor. It was one of my right field, Egg Roden, one of the catchers, Herberto, and another guy, Bob Easterwood, slept on the floor until about 6 o'clock in the morning. I said, "Hey, man, I don't need no help here." I said, "I think I can handle whatever happened." No. We're going to stay here. They stayed with me until 6 o'clock in the morning. They got up, went back out the window, and came back around 4 o'clock, picked me up. We drove back to the ballpark. Nobody knew about it, but I did. I was so thankful, not because of what happened to them, it's because I felt that those guys understood my problems. They knew that, hey, if something good would happen, I might have got hurt. I would have hurt somebody, and then you wouldn't have had a career.
I want you to understand. I want you to hear part 2 of this as well. This is part 2 of Willie Mays talking about racism he encountered in Hagerstown, Maryland.
Black in that particular league, and we played in a town called Hagerstown, Maryland. Oh, I never forget this day on a Friday, and they call you all kinds of names there, nigger this, nigger that, and I said to myself, and which I think.
I want you to stop for a second. I want you. Cam Newton is being insulted. Air quotes here. Air quotes, people. He's being insulted because the quarterback of the winning football team is talking smack. And we've learned, I don't know. I really believe that this is really the pussification of America. And we saw it last night. And really, the most disgusting thing I found in the past 24 hours in this pussification of America is the number of black women who are Democrats who see him as a victim and cover him in drapery of color rather than speaking to his character. They have pussified our community, have pussified our little boys. And so instead of showing good sportsmanship, they're victims. I don't know about you, but I'm not a $20 million victim. This is one of the greatest ball players in American history. These are the words he heard. And before, let me just play that one. Do I play that one more? No, I'm not going to play that one more time. Yes, I am. I'm going to play that one. I want you to understand. This is Cam Newton. This is why he gets up. Because he hears another football player dissing him.
Load the box, force y'all to throw the ball. So you throw the football. That was the game plan. Load the box, one man outside. They got a couple of big plays, but I feel like load the box, force y'all to throw the ball. So you throw the football. That was the game plan. Load the box, one man outside. They got a couple of big plays, but I feel like.
Ladies and gentlemen, the gentleman is saying our game plan was to stop him from throwing the ball. Make him run. And if he couldn't run, they were going to sack him. That's how Von Miller became the MVP. He gets up, he's upset because the gentleman is talking about their game plan for stopping him. And he's upset.
This, nigga, that, and
do you hear what Willie Mays? And forget my French, I have to say, I'm going to repeat, nigger this, nigger that. Ladies and gentlemen, this man has heard every... People wonder why I'm so tough. I've always been a conservative since I was a little boy. I've heard every... And maybe not every, maybe they're creating some new ones so they can tell me what I am. But I've heard every insult you possibly can say about me, and sometimes from fellow Republicans. That's why I'm so bold and so, so stride right in my bravado. It doesn't affect me what you say about me or what you think about me. I'm going to be me. Willie Mays is being called every negative word imaginable. This is how he responds back to it every single time.
Friday, and they call you all kinds of names there, nigger this, nigger that, and I said to myself, and which I think this is why Piper Davis came in my mind. Hey, whatever they call you, they can't touch you. Don't talk back. Now, this was on a Friday, and the Friday night, I hit 2 doubles, home run. It never clapped. The next day, I hit the same thing. There was a house out there in the back there. I hit that twice. Now, they start clapping a little bit. You know how that is. You know, they clap a little bit. By Sunday, there was a big headline in the paper, "Do not bother Mays." You know, understand what I'm saying? They could call you all kind of names. Now, this is the first 2 games I played. And by Sunday, I come to bat. They're all clapping for you. And I'm wondering, wait a minute, what happened to the Friday? What happened to the Saturday?
There you go. Call him. What he did was he used the negativeness of someone else and turned it positive. Now that takes maturity. And now I want you all to understand something. I'm not putting down Cam Newton because of his immaturity. You learn. And for those who listened to the Bible study last night, yesterday morning, an American Conservative Exploration of the Inspired Word of God, we talked about learning. We talked about experience. We talked about maturity is a growth thing. It doesn't happen all at one time. You don't overnight become. I mean, everyone talks about, what was the football player, Denver Broncos, number 7, John Elway. Everyone always talks about John Elway was a great quarterback. Great quarterback, John Elway. It wasn't until John Elway matured that he won championships. Dan Marino. He learned to mature without winning a championship. He learned to retire with still the desire and dream to win one and not have an opportunity to do so. Doug Williams played for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers when it was not cool to wear anything that the Tampa Bay Buccaneers wore. And in fact, if you saw somebody with Tampa Bay gear on, it gave you royal permission to knock them out. I believe Tampa Bay started off their football legacy 0-70 million. They were the lousiest, worst team, and Doug Williams, night after night, afternoon after afternoon, day after day, he was taking shot after shot after shot, being beat up and tossed around, and people were saying things about him with great ammunition. And he sucked it up. And then he was traded to the Washington Redskins. And all of those years, you're right, Dave. Lots of players in the NFL never won in the Hall of Fame. Forgive me. Lots of people in the Hall of Fame never won a championship. You're right. But Doug Williams, his maturity was so great that he was able to come in after being benched and won a Super Bowl. He never let it get to him. Peyton Manning was not all that great a matured individual either. He grew and he matured in it. But this is a problem. This is a problem right here. When you begin to wrap things up in color that should be wrapped in character. I want to go now. And thank you, Ron Simpson, for joining us. New member, new friend. Who says that David Bowie had 3 more Super Bowl appearances than Tony Romo. So, for all you Tony Romo friends, there you go. Tony sucks. Okay. We had his team around him. I want to go now to my website, and I'll put this in for those who are at Facebook. It'll be an opportunity for you to follow along at home. Yeah, Dave Milner says maybe Cam needs to have a talk with Warren Moon. That would be a very good talk. Warren Moon is not in the best of health right now. He sacrificed a lot on losing teams. Played in the Canadian Football League. In the Canadian Football, he played in the Canadian Football League. That's cold. In order to get into the NFL. I understand. But last night's Super Bowl was not about black versus white. Not unless you went to the halftime show. We'll talk about that as well. So this is what I wrote in relation to that particular story. the real reason Cam Newton left the post-Super Bowl press conference. It is not a good reason. I don't care what you say. It's not a good reason. Willie Mays, this is, and I put this in here for those who are following along at home. Willie Mays, Henry Aaron, Bill Russell, Wilt Chamberlain, Arthur Ashe, Jesse Owens, Jackie Robinson, Althea Gibson, etc. And I was responding to Sean King because Sean King made some exaggerated points about this, and I just wanted to get it straight. As a black man, Sean King, Black Lives Matter, black man, there you go. You must agree that we should not have asked more of those in our ancestry since we demand so little of our progeny. The aforementioned heard far more quaint antagonisms than anything Cam heard last night. Yet they stood tall and took it. Their victory was not found in their ease of atmosphere, but that they stood taller than their enemies and reigned supreme. Maturity is a growth matter. It will come in due season. However, we should not be as nannies and not expect valor in the midst of defeat. Yeah, maybe if Willie Mays had stormed off the first time he heard the voice of the adversary, then we would have all been better off. If you cheer for him because of his color, certainly do not cover him in color when the question is about character. The question is character in this conversation. It was a question for John Elway. It was a question for Joe Theismann. It was the question for Brett Favre, who's MVP in the Hall of Fame. All of them were immature. Johnny Manziel, immature, a thug, a pimp, prostitute, and brother. I said it, I'm not afraid. He has some problems. When the star of 2.5 Men tells you that you have problems, you got problems. That dude got AIDS. And he's telling you you got problems. Johnny Manziel, you got issues, man. They need to be worked out. But you can't say this. Apparently, you can't say this, what I just said, that this is not a question about color, it's a question about character. But Cheryl Vedrines, thank you so much. She said, amen, Kenneth. Thank you. Anthony E. Gracie, yes, that's why you cannot always believe what the press says. L. Ashworth says, very well said. Ed Squires, already has shared, but good to see it again. Edward L. Smith, I think well said as well. I look forward to your next broadcast. John Hosey, though I'm sure the loss was heartbreaking and it wasn't all the fault of the QB, I don't believe for a minute that anything he might have been hearing excuses his accelerated departure. Just look at what other quarterbacks have had to endure after a Super Bowl loss, especially Manning. I have to say he looked childish. Just my 2 cents. Thank you, John Hosey. But here's my nemesis. My arch rival. You always have to have someone arching you. And I want you all to know my arch rival is slightly confused. Slightly confused. Okay? You're going to hear about it. Well, Kenneth McClinton. Oh, he uses my whole name, Professor Michael Hughes. And all of your yes men. Wow. Wow, man. I must be a very powerful somebody to have all these yes men. He didn't storm off. Oh, so we're quibbling over stuff now. We're quibbling. He didn't storm off. He certainly got up in a speedily motion and then left. There is nothing wrong with him expressing his disengagement with losing the biggest game of his career. Maybe Willie Mays, Hank Aaron, and all of them paved the way so that he could do the same thing. Bill Belichick does. And you all are okay with it. And now I want you all to know, and Mary will tell you for listening to this program, and I still make jokes with Sean Lewis from Sackheads Radio about the airless balls that were thrown in New England. I did not find that acceptable sportsmanship in the least bit. I know, Mary. Dr. Hughes is always misreading you. It's because he is slightly, what's our word for the day, class? He is slightly confused. Dr. Hughes is slightly confused. He goes on to say, same thing Bill Belichick does, and you all are okay with it. And he only has to face a bunch of pissy attitudes instead of death threats. Really? Bill Belichick never received it. Bill Belichick used to coach for Navy. I know the brother got some death threats from Army and from other groups. Probably from his own midshipmen. Michael, please. Please. Stop the victimhood. Cam Newton is not a victim. Cam Newton is not a victim. Of course you're going to have individuals that come against you and not like the jovial expression of your game. You're going to have critics. Guess what? You had critics when you were back in elementary school. Nothing's changed. Nothing's changed. A little dab will do you. Yeah, I know. Yeah, everyone loves it. Everyone loves the fact you go out of your way to take a football after someone scored over to a kid who said, that's wonderful, that's great. You're giving so much money away. That's wonderful, that's great. But guess what? Where it shows up most is in your profession. On the field and off. Michael Hughes goes on to say, and damn, Kenneth McClinton. So I have been damned. I am going to the same place that Kirk, what's her name? Albright said, all the women are going. I'm going to hell with them. See? Now I have more than 72 women. You and your minions didn't read the article that you posted. Apparently, I don't read too well. I be not a professor at a historically black college, though I don't be reading too well. And I just read the article to you all, so people, I've read it. Don't worry about that one. You and your minions didn't read the article that you posted, or you or your minions. Yeah, he has a jealousy towards the minions. Are you a minion? I don't remember you being a minion. I don't remember Mary being a minion, unless she listened to Kira Davis's show. Do you still listen to Kira Davis? Because that's the only way you can be a minion. I never call my people minions. I wish I were that powerful. But I don't have minions. I have fellow patriots. Or you, or in your, and we're going to go through without a commercial break tonight, because it's too much we got to do. We got to talk about. Or you and your minions just want to be negative. Shame on you and the flunkies who follow you. What's up with the... Man, you got a classroom of kids that listen to you, have to listen to you because they pay to listen to you. None of these people pay to listen to me, but they choose to be with me. I guess I am the better one. No. Michael Hughes, John Knott replies, I think we can all agree here on this transformational note. I have a dream that my 4 little children will one day live in a nation where they will not be judged by the color of their skin, but by the content of their character. Herein, we see an example sharing a lesson learned regarding the content of character passed down through the generations. It was a dream, sir. I don't care who you are, short, fat, black, white, brown, yellow, we all bleed red, hooah. To be a leader, you must have failed, hooah. Where I come from, you fall down 7 times, you get back up 8. I served as a soldier medic and have seen people at their absolute worst. And I have seen people at their best absolute. Hooah. Herein, wait a minute, where's my, we got a Marine talking. We got a Marine, baby. That's what we're talking about right there. We got a Marine. Think of this as a Marine talking to you, baby. There you go. Merry Christmas. Happy New Year. Happy Valentine's Day. All right. All right. So herein is an athlete, a champion, and human. Imperfect. This man failed. Newton lost, and that sucks. Plain and simple. Hooah. Such is the game here as it is in life. It is not so much about winning as it is about losing, so much more so. Transformation lost. A lesson learned for those aspiring scholars and athletes yet to come. A reminder we're all imperfect. Newton is human too. I'm not saying it was the noble route, but last time I checked, we are all imperfect by definition. I think he sat through the paparazzi, kept looking up for the inspiration in a room full of vipers. He sucked it up and drove on. Herein, Mr. Kenneth McClinton is sounding off from his perspective. His fulcrum of reason, hooah. So are you, Mr. Hughes, and so am I. Note, Mr. McClinton is a man among men. Your comment stating, or you and your minions just want to be negative, shame on you and the flunkies who follow you, is a no-go. Check yourself. Know that we are all critically thinking human beings, each a leader in his own right, one doing their best with the tools we've got. Hooah. I suggest you reflect on the words spoken and extend an apology. Please circumscribe the topic as if you were speaking as a man among men. Speak with reason. You're a good man. Now lace your boots, saddle up, and drink water. Respectfully submitted, Sergeant John Knott, Alpha Troop, 1st 221st Cavalry, 11th ACR, Highlander Medic. There you go. I don't know if he was a Marine. It sounded like he was Army. There you go. Hooah. So, I love you all. Thank you so much. Michael Hughes says, John Knott, you are right. And I apologize to Kenneth McClinton and all those I may have offended with my sarcasm. I have received a valuable lesson from you, John, and will go forward with your request in mind. My father was a sergeant and medic in the Army. Respect. There you go. So, thank you, John. There you go. It doesn't take me always saying something. You know, that's what a good leader does. Set the tone. There you go. John Knott, Michael Hughes, I tip my hat, sir. Thank you, and all is good from my perspective. I figure it must have been a real humbling experience for that young quarterback. He'll find that alone time, say a prayer, get his locker sorted, dust off his shoulder pads, renewed and ready to stand back up. A better mentor having that lesson having fallen. Hooah. Never broken. John Knott, Highlander Medic. John Knott, BTW side note. I rooted for the Broncos last night. I'm a Raiders fan, so I guess that explains my being used to losing a game or two or 20 or whatever. I predict Raider 2017 Super Bowl 51. Who's on for the chat? Mary Brockman, I love Minions. Yes, ladies and gentlemen. So there you go. Literally, let's just be real, people. We all have an opinion on these particular things. You may not agree with my opinion. I don't expect you to agree with my opinion. I really don't want you to. But I do want to say this. There is an expectation of me, of Cam, of you, in life. That expectation is that you will fail. You will fall down. It's not what you do when you fall down. It's what you do when you get back up. How do you handle these situations? And there are moments, I assure you. LeBron James, I remember, looking very childish when he lost in the Cavaliers game, taking off his jersey and throwing it away. I will never play for Cleveland again. We are hurt. And there are growth moments. So the question becomes, what do we do? What do we do in our time of growth? Are we going to allow those around us to cuddle us rather than just being straight to the point and earnest and honest? He feels what you're feeling. He knows what you know. Many of us have been there before. But it does not give us the right to give him a pass. You see, that's why we marched with Martin Luther King. We marched with Martin Luther King. We marched with Jesse Jackson. We marched with all of these people simply because we wanted to be judged not by the color of our skin, but by the content of our character. I am so proud of you, Michael Hughes. I am proud to have you as my cousin. You were able to see something, and you changed your mind. And I thank John Knott for giving the perspective that enabled you to see something different so that you could change your mind. Maturation is a growth thing, and growth takes a little time. Sometimes we act out of our feelings, and you are not alone. You know your cousin also acts sometimes out of feelings. But you know what? The truth of the matter is that we have to search out the truth, and we have to speak it, and we have to speak it boldly. Because if we don't, then we cannot be judged by our character, but we will be judged by every other extenuating circumstance that really doesn't make a difference at all. Cam Newton is not a great black quarterback. Cam Newton is a great quarterback. And I'm really tired of those people on the left inserting something on race that doesn't need to be there. Last night's game was not about the Civil War again. It was not about the North and the South. It was not about the white man versus the black man. It was not about that. It was about two teams of football players who all their lives, since some of them were out of the womb, dressed in a jersey, had the ambition of someday playing at the highest level of sport, at their highest level as an athlete. You weren't there, and I wasn't either. The days that they were out there when it was 102, with very little water to drink. We weren't there when it was snowing and raining and the coach made them run in the snow and the rain. But we were there to watch not just their gifts as athletes, but also their abilities to perform off the field with character. Disappointing? Yes. An opportunity? Yes. A teachable moment? Certainly. And do we expect even more from Cam Newton in the future? More wins? More yards? More touchdowns? But also more character. You see, on the football field, he's the quarterback. He's responsible for the other 10 players that are on the field with him. He's responsible for setting the tone and example, even when the Sundays come that he doesn't want to. You, Dr. Hughes, as a father in your household, set the example. You set the tone. As a husband and as a father. We have our bad days. We have our great days. But every day, we need to be judged. In those great sports of family, of life, of friends, by our character and not by the color of our skin. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to take you to another story in which I have received a great harsh reaction. And I want to preface this by saying, hopefully you all understand, and I want to thank also Rebooting Liberty, SHR Media, and High Plains Talk Radio for covering us and allowing this great broadcast to get out around the world. I want you all to know that the thugs in Denver are thugs. Destroying anyone's private property is thuggishness, thuggery. I know, Matthew Mestofferson, you tell me that these guys were not burning down neighborhoods and stuff like that. Nevertheless, they were destroying private property, and the destruction of private property or public property is a thug move. And those guys should have been arrested. It's not about the color of the skin. The bottom line is they're thugs, and they need to pay the ultimate price for destroying property. Now, apparently there was a young woman by the name of Beyonce. Beyonce. Since she has a Louisiana background, we can say Beyonce, can't we? Beyonce performed at the Super Bowl last night. I missed it. I didn't watch it. And I was told I didn't miss too much. But Beyonce came out dressed in the garb of the Black Panther movement. They were giving props before they came onto the field. They took a photograph called Black Lives Matter. Now, there are lots of people that want me to support Black Lives Matter, and I never will. Number one, because it's a communist manifesto that has taken pride in deriving hostility amongst police and communities. I am not a Black Lives Matter friend. Well, and I might be your greatest adversary when I get on the air. Because I don't mind uncovering the fact that you are a communist group of hell-raising LGBTQ artists. It's what you do. And it's okay to be truthful and let everyone know that that's what you do. But certainly, Jay-Z, who held a concert back in October of last year and is going to donate $1.5 million at last word to Black Lives Matter, as well as Beyonce sent a message. Now, of course, if the KKK had come onto the field and did a little dance routine, that would have been as offensive as I thought Beyonce and the rest of her tribe out there in their stripper garb. And so I put up a picture on Facebook, I shared it. It says, definition of hypocrisy. Claiming you don't trust the police but demanding they escort you to the Super Bowl. She was escorted to the Super Bowl, but last night's song, well, not the song itself, Formation, but certainly the attire for Black Lives Matter and for the Black Panther movement. They were making a racial political statement last night. Tim Tebow was criticized unceasingly because he chose to be a Christian and wanted to display his Christian faith when he played. I think it accelerated his departure from the NFL. That and also not being able to throw a nice spiral. But what she did last night was unacceptable. Period. What they did last night was unacceptable. After I put the picture up, these are some of the things that came in to me. Katina Young says, size. She is against police brutality, not all cops. Are you against injustice? How does that make her a hypocrite? My goodness. How did we leap so far? Leaps and bounds, I tell you. Leaps and bounds. Ladies and gentlemen, she is not against police brutality when you salute Black Lives Matter. In favor of burning down Ferguson, maybe. In favor of spoiling Baltimore with riots, maybe. Seeking the overthrow of the government, which Black Lives Matter does want to do, along with Bernie Sanders. Yeah. It makes her a hypocrite when the people that she least supports, she demands the greatest of. That's a definition, I think, or at least an example of the definition of hypocrisy. Acting like you really care and that you really need them because they provide a useful tool to you. And that's kind of like how socialism gets going in a community. You begin to look upon the angels of wealth, mostly in the entertainment industry, and then you begin to say, you know what, they deserve to be treated better than me. And then certainly they're politicians that deserve to be treated better than you. And all of a sudden you begin to create a whole class of people who should be treated better than you. If you believed in Jesus, we should be treated all the same. Camilla Masunda, very upset with me. It's police brutality, period. Not all, but some are bad cops. These are facts. Facts, I tell you. I love Carl Eddie Mitchell III. Carl Eddie says she is for whatever gets her attention and record sales. That is why a grown married woman and mother would dance in front of millions like a stripper on a pole while lying about how much she cares about black lives. If they matter so much, why is she not writing songs about Planned Parenthood or all the self-inflicted murders in the hood? Pure folly and foolishness for the glory of the enemy in front of the rainbow. All right, you got my like on that one. There you go. Camilla Masunda responds, why aren't you, since you feel so strongly, she is human and has her views. Do I agree with this one? Yes. Do we have other issues that need attention? Sure. Trust at this point, her music sells without effort. Okay, let me back up, Camilla. Even Michael Jackson's albums didn't sell without effort. That's why Michael Jackson always showed up at an event. That's why you always see these guys when they release a movie show up on TV shows. Honey, it does take effort, no matter how great your name is, to stay number one. Trust me, I'm working on it. Carl Addis Mitchell III. I am called to do a work that I can only pray is as successful in encouraging souls and saving lives. However, if God called me to sing or write, I would to his glory alone. I don't feel strongly. I am just paying attention to the right and wrong of things such as this. If it is just as much an opportunity for true believers as it is those that choose to see this mess as entertainment. Camilla responds, oh, true believers and soul saving will sing on, brother. I'll not knock your beliefs. However, I have a different views. You continue to be blessed in your mission. Now, I want you to know Camilla is out in Charlotte, North Carolina. We love you. We're praying for you. We hope all is well with you. Okay. And as a business owner, okay, she has to make a profit for herself. I understand that. I truly do. Okay. But let me tell you something, honey. Jesus before you. You need to be able to walk in truth at all times. My boy Carl over there, he's walking in some serious truth. Beyonce is, without a shadow of a doubt, using you and all the others who come behind you who don't want to knock her success for the intrigue that she creates by making a racial political statement. Kind of like Will Smith and his wife, Jada Pinkett. Both of those individuals and groups support Black Lives Matter. And they've read the material and they know exactly what it is. And they would as soon see that you suffer because you don't actually fit in their crowd or in their class. But I suppose all that matters is that her record sells. Carl Eddie Mitchell III, he responds, the enemy is crafty but also easy to catch in his lies. Love will never send your eternal soul to hell. Love is not prideful. Camilla Masunda responds, I said, be blessed, my soul is wonderful, truly amazing, but I know who I am. So in this situation, I'll agree to disagree. You be blessed. And you know, that's amazing when you get Christians together who disagree, how disagreeable they can be. I mean, that was typed with a nasty attitude. Someone caring for your soul, there's no problem with that. You need to check yourself, sister. J.D. Golden says, so true. I'm glad you have the guts to tell it like it is. Kenneth McClinton, with the Obama produced, after 8 years, a tribute to the burning of Ferguson. Garrett Anglin goes on to say, the stupid is strong in this one. John Hossey, I'm not claiming to have a great physique or anything, but did she look a little bit fat in the Super Bowl halftime show? I mean, she is a nice-looking woman and all, but I have to think she may have been having a bit more to eat than she might. And I wondered if maybe she was getting a little Britney Spears in her. I mean, you might blame it on the costume, but... Michael Hughes, professor, responds, Yo, John, it might do you well to not criticize her shape because you have some problem that coincides with Kenneth's criticism of her police exploits. That woman, even if she got a little thicker for her look, ranks in the top 3 of any singer. What does being ranked in the top 3 have to do with you being fat? I mean, can't we just be honest, folk? I mean, people are dying in the streets because they're fat. No. Admit or not, if she said you could get one kiss, you agree to crawl 10 yards over broken glass to get her. I promise you I wouldn't. I am not that interested in Beyonce, okay? I don't like the fake hair and stuff. I like my natural woman. If you can find it, cause I understand she's got brains too. What you say about that, cousin Kenneth McClinton? I ain't got nothing to say about that. I got a show to do. All right. Apparently, did she actually say she didn't trust the police, or that there is a problem with some of them and what some of them do? The latter is a legitimate claim, Kenneth McClinton, and there are probably many police who support that notion, as evidenced by their willingness to escort her. They're not willingness; they're getting paid. What that? Kenneth, you must be of a higher order of thinking if you are going to run with the big dogs out here, and you have to take this constructive criticism if you're going to grow any. It is easy. This is the same guy who just got critiqued. It is easy to jump on a political party's bandwagon and run. Okay, Michael Hughes, Professor Michael Hughes. Let me make this loud and clear because I got to go now. Van Tillman said, sorry, expletive, I can't repeat it, amplifying ignorance and racism to protest against it. And Bob Elvis sick. Frank Rizzo said that, or she went full racist. Let me just make this clear, Michael Hughes. And I want to make it very plain for you. Very, very plain for you. Your sensibilities have been stolen from you because you have been perverted by those who manipulate your brain waves to accept anything less than freedom and liberty in the pursuit of happiness. And so, you marginalize yourself with your opinions and your criticisms, and you certainly make yourself a belittling figure when you make statements or assertions towards me. So here's my recommendation for you. Keep it substantive and also keep to the topic, because the truth of the matter is she is a little plumpy, and that happens after you have a baby. And she can't wear them outfits the way she used to. Okay? That's why Revlon had a contract clause that said that once you had a baby, we're not going to keep you. Ladies and gentlemen, being honest and being open, it helps. It helps a whole lot. Truth of the matter is, there's some people that need some growing up. Cam Newton was one of those. And Beyonce is the other, along with Jay-Z. Hopefully someday they'll understand what true higher learning and higher thinking is. And then that will separate them from the rest of the broken world. Ladies and gentlemen, a man once told me, without a shadow of doubt, live bravely, Ken, never die coward. I promise you I always will. As for me and Mrs. Biggs and Mary Brockman, my bouncer, and Dave Milner, the unpleasant blind guy, and all the others in the Exceptional Conservative Show family, God bless you. And it's time for America to bless God. We'll see you tomorrow night at 9 p.m. Eastern Time. God bless you. Talk to you later. Peace.